Hey guys, this is Figuring It Out with Amber GM. Today we're talking with my very good longtime friend Imani Harris about all things life, poetry, rap, music, and everything else that she does because she's just really a jack of all trades. Imani, would you like to introduce yourself a bit?
Sure, don't gas me like that.
I can't
my,
help
my
it.
name my name is Imani Harris. I also go by ImaniThaPoet. I am a rapper, poet, and just general writer from Cleveland, Ohio. A Black queer woman, she, her, hers pronouns, but yes, all that.
Um,
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
yes, we're excited to have you. And some of you might actually know Imani from our class of 2020 OSU. Woo, woo, holla. I
Thanks.
didn't graduate with them, but that was my class.
You don't have to tell them that. You're with us in spirit. None of us really graduated because of a pandemic, but
Yeah, that's true. We were
yeah,
all, well, y'all were robbed. I decided to opt out.
yep. Lucky you.
Okay, but so let's get into it. Tell me how you feeling today.
I don't know. The sun is out in Columbus, so that's a rare occurrence. I hear
A day of
the
rain
trees
too.
blowing. Right, like this is. I don't know. This is as good as weather gets, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling new beginnings coming.
Ooh,
Spring always makes you feel that way. So
yes, it does, and I like that little the new beginnings thing.
yeah.
Yeah. hmm. Okay, so how I like to do this is I usually don't like to really lead with questions, um, but I do want to start with one for you. So I know that you're about to move into a new chapter of your life. Like you're moving away from Columbus, you're starting a bunch
Woo
of new
woo
stuff. Yes, so very new.
woo woo. Yeah.
Yes. And when we were talking previously, like just as friends, you were
Yeah.
telling me about how your creativity is going through like this metamorphosis and you're like feeling it out and it's feeling like something new or something different and you're trying to explore that. And
For
I
sure.
want to ask how you think those things align with where you're going right now.
Yeah. Woo, yeah, you're like, I'll just start with the question. It's like the biggest question. But I love that. I think I love starting in just unstable ground because that's how it feels, I guess. I think so for the past year, like since graduation, I've been working a 9 to 5 for the first time in my life. Anyone who knows me knows I hate jobs. They're my least favorite things on the planet. But yeah, I think this time has just kind of caused me to kind of take a step back from my creativity in some ways, and try to re-enter, I guess, where I come in as a creative person. So yeah, I'm trying to think of like how to enter this. This is so big. Like I'm just like, ah, this time is so big. So I'm moving to Chicago for graduate school to study media as a media creator too, and kind of getting to do both hats for the first time in my life. When I went to school, of course, I'm like, I'm doing this as a scholarship. Yep, this is the thing. 9 to 5. I'm doing this in my free time, kind of whenever I can find time to be creative, I'll do that. But now, kind of seeing those two things kind of merge together, and all those things, like it's terrifying. I think it's really terrifying when you're a person who thinks about things on so many levels to kind of have this thing come together as like a scholar who studies music. And before I went to school, before studying music, I studied music. Like I wasn't just listening to music, I was studying the intricacies of someone's like verse and rapping and all of these things. But when you go to school, now you're forced to kind of do it in this very like a kind of disingenuous way, kind of, or like this voyeuristic
Yes.
way that I think is a little like, ooh, ugh. And I studied poetry at OSU. So like that was very much the approach I came into, and I wasn't creative before college. So like that was my intro to creativity, was this weird like excavating of all these various things and trying to like pull them apart and like make meaning in ways that like whoever knew whether a poem was meant to mean one thing or another thing. And like
Mhm.
it was weird. And now it's going into this place where now I kind of have to put that hat on while also maintaining this like artistry. And I think it's really challenging. And there's a lot of, I think, creative people who kind of go into those spaces who feel very similar. Even think about like Audre Lorde and all these like just revolutionary people who've talked about this, is like, how do we, particularly as Black folks, approach art and approach it in a way that is not so I don't know. It's just not so literal. It's not so all of these things. It's just being. Like, how do we do that? And I don't have that answer. I have no idea. But like, yeah, I don't even know if I answered your question. I just rambled. But like,
No, you did. Actually,
yeah,
like, too, because so going to grad school definitely is like it's a wonderful opportunity. You got funding for a wonderful place. You're gonna have a great time. But on the other side of that, like even with that privilege and that honor, there is also still like the drawback of like academic spheres not always being authentic places, especially
yeah,
for people who are trying to just like exist in your truth instead of prove prove some sort of status or make some sort of sweeping claim that doesn't actually speak to the root of whatever it is. And so
yeah,
for you to like when you use that word voyeuristic about like studying music, specifically because you're a rapper, a poet, and like rap is often an art form that is seen as more base than others. And
yeah,
it is often viewed, especially in like higher spaces, like academic spaces or
yeah,
high cultural art spaces in a very voyeuristic way. And
yeah.
so I know you haven't made it there yet, but can you tell me a little bit more about like how you're feeling or how you're thinking about that? Because like that word really set a light bulb off in my mind that like speaks to something that we all
Yeah.
know to be true about the way rap is perceived, but like I never thought about it like so blatantly like that.
Yeah, it's crazy because that's all I'm thinking about. I'm thinking of spectatorship a lot in the work that I want to do, particularly around Black women artists. Hip hop and alternative R&Bs, like specifically, like I wrote about SZA and just kind of thinking about the ways in which like Control as that awesome album that did all of these great insurmountable things. Like she passed Whitney Houston as like the first like debut album by a Black female artist to last on the chart the longest. To pass
I don't
Whitney
know how to deal with
Houston,
this.
right? And
Mhm.
it's like, but how do you deal with that then? Like when people start to be able to access these stories and these narratives, but it isn't in the same way of like just being appreciative, it becomes so and I think that's the part I think I struggle with as an artist, and I also struggle with as an academic, because it's like, where is that line? Because it's like we need this music, I guess, to enter those spaces to disrupt, right? But in order for it to disrupt, at some point it has to be spectated. So like,
Where's that balance?
right. And even if you think of just like awesome artists who are out right now, like Megan Thee Stallion, who's amazing and does all these great things, the more people spectate her and do all of these things towards like having access to her life, like what gets like disrupted in that? Like, yes, we have these Black women doing these amazing things, but like,
Are we actually honoring them when we're taking that in? Mm-hmm.
right. And I think that's the tough part. That's the challenge. I think that's always the burden of Black art. And then when you have that gaze, what do you do with it? And the burden is you have to be a conscious rapper, someone who's constantly like addressing issues, but also the responsibility is like, but like you also have to kind of do that to make sure these spaces don't just sweep you under the rug. But like, I don't know.
Like what an issue is like
Yeah,
that conversation around rap being like, oh, it's all degrading or it's all demeaning. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
well, I'm not talking about this the way you want me to talk about this, but I'm talking about my lived experience.
exactly. That's my life. Yeah. So it's tough. And going into that space, knowing that I'm going to have to carry that burden, and appreciative that I have a program that seems very accepting, because I wrote my writing sample like, we're going to tell them what we're talking about. I'm not here to dissect SZA as an artist. That's not my goal. That's not it. I want to talk about what her art does, because that's what I want to happen. What does it do? What does it make people feel? I'm not here to act like I don't care about what's going on in SZA's personal life. That's her business. That's not what art is for. Like, it's for what it does, what it can do, and what it makes people feel, and all those things. So like, it's tough. I think I picked the right program to have that toughness kind of work out. But yeah, it was tough in undergrad. I don't think it's gonna get easier at all. At all.
Well, okay. So on that one side of it, because yeah, like as a poet and as a rapper, and I keep going back to the rapper thing because like poetry and rap are the same. Like rap is
Yes.
a high art form. Um, and I also just like remember you telling me that you felt like you really started being creative in college.
Yeah.
Um, well, not felt like you really started being creative in college. And to me, that's like such a mind blowing concept too, because since I've known you, you've always been Imani the poet. Since the first day we met on the floor, first year of college, that's been
Yeah.
you. Um, and so that feeling that I think of Black poetry and rap and just Black art in general, like
Yeah.
always being gazed upon in a like very demeaning way. That's not all of it, right? Like there are times when it feels honored. There are times when it feels like it's being praised and actually consumed in a way that is for nourishment and like all these
Yeah.
other things.
It's medicine.
It
Yeah.
is. It is medicine. But I think in even deciding, like for me, I know in even deciding to like claim myself as an artist and like create and like share that with the world, I had to decide in myself first, like predominantly for me, this is a good thing. This is not another space where I'm just going to be a body for consumption. Like this is a
Yeah.
space where I get to be a person. So, like, what,
I like that.
well, I was gonna ask, like, when you came into yourself as an artist and you decided like I am Imani the poet and you named yourself I am Imani the poet, like what were the feelings that went into that? Are there times when you have felt like this is a thing that can be honored? Because I know like I remember you talking about some of your poetry classes too and you were just like these niggas don't get it. Like
These niggas
what?
don't get it. They never get it. These non-nigga niggas never get
Yes.
it. Never.
But
Yes.
like you keep going.
When I tell you, like, it's who, I don't even know when the first time I claimed it. I think for a long time I was like, yeah, I'm Imani who does poetry. And the name Imani the poet actually came from that's what people started to call me. They were like, oh yeah, that's Imani, yeah, the poet. I said, okay, cool, that's the identifier. I am the poet, cool. And I just thought it was funny, and I was like, I'll just keep it. And I've grown to love it. But I think like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's such a burden. I feel like a lot of people don't feel worthy of those titles. Like, yeah, I do art, but like, and I think that lack of worth comes from like, so often I think Black art is approached from a space of absence, right? Like, I want to do art because I don't feel like I had a voice, and this is where I find my voice. So it's like, okay, I want to do art because all of these things have been stripped away from my community, and now I want to do that. Like, that place of
Don't
absence.
really exist in absence.
Yes, Blackness doesn't exist in absence. And like, that was the struggle for me, because I think when I first started, you know, when we came into college, like Trump was just elected. Like that was the tone. And every time I spoke, I felt like I had to address the very big elephant in the room that everybody started to call a pet. I'm like, this is not a pet. Like this is something we actively have to like address every time. But what happened with me is like, I wasn't becoming, I don't think I was an artist then. I think I was a facilitator of a message almost. And I don't think that that's not what art is, but I think there is something about how I felt that was getting missed in that moment. I was speaking for a whole community of people about what I felt was missing. And I think Black art can never fully exist in absence. I think it can start from a place of addressing the absence, but like, it wasn't until I kind of like stepped back and was like, yo, I've never made a poem about just like how I feel. I've never written about like love. I've never written about like addiction as like a real thing. I've wrote about it as this concept. I'm like, yeah, but I intimately know addiction in my family. Like, why have I never discussed that in a poem? Why have I never brought that out? And I'm like, there's a wall, that intimacy of like what I don't want people to receive. And it's like, kind of like, it's a framing issue. Like, if I'm only focused about what people receive, how am I not coming through? How am I not actually becoming that artist? And I think it probably wasn't, to be honest, until the end of my junior year where I had been asked to perform all these times, like perform as an artist and then perform as a person doing art, like that I actually was like, yeah, I'm tired of being a facilitator. Like I want to be. And I think it wasn't until my TEDx poem that I feel like I actually brought myself forward. Mm-hmm. And it was because I was tired of being absent in my own work. I wanted to be present, and I wanted to express something in abundance. And like, yeah, I don't know. That's when I claimed it. I was like, I want to be abundant. I don't want to just be someone who didn't have a voice and now I have a voice. I want to be someone whose voice is so big that I can do all of these things. Like, I wanted to be big. And that's when I became, I guess, an artist. Not big compared to other people, but just big in myself, in my wholeness, in my identities, in my everything. So yeah, it was hard though, because absence is hard.
That is hard. And like so many times too, especially like, and I think for Black people and for queer people
Yeah.
in particular, like the thing of absence and the thing of lacking is always what people turn to and they look to. And like we constantly see these pushes, like the hashtags like Black Boy Joy or Black Girl Magic, or like um I can't think of a hashtag around trans, but like just trans people like can live and be happy. And like
Yeah.
I know there is a hashtag and I can't think of what it is. But like where you just get to actually fully be a person. Um Oftentimes it's something, even with like recent social media pushes for that conversation, like it's still lost in translation. Like when you
Sure.
when you hear something so powerful, oftentimes the thing that people focus on is like it's powerful because it reminded me of how I was unheard too, which like is powerful, and you want to feel like there's somebody who can resonate with what you're saying. But if our art, which is an embodiment of your spirit, only ever focuses on the places where you have felt most inhuman, then like that is not uplifting. um yeah, and I think it's interesting too, like that you use that word absence, like you felt absent in some of your work previously and then you took a break, where like I mean to many people I'm sure it seems like even to me I said like, oh, have you been doing anything, like um and so like this outside expectation is like, oh, now you're absent from your work, but really that's not the case. Like it's actually the reverse.
Yeah.
And like what that feels like for you, like how do you find the courage to say, to acknowledge like I'm actually not present here, and then to say like I need to find a way to be present.
Yeah. Courage. Ooh, I don't know if I had that. I was just operating on a place of, I was just so gone. Like I was at the rock bottom place of like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I'm just ready to get this degree. And I said, I don't know what I want to do with it, but here we go. And I think that's usually like, I don't know, you get into this like mindset of just keep going, keep going, keep going, and you never just kind of stop. And I think, I don't know. I really wish I had an answer. I think it was just tired of waking up and just kind of like, something I always think about like with artists and like things is like when people are like, yeah, your art saved my life. And like the way people treat artists is like they do this for other people. Like I think that's a conversation a lot of people are discussing now. Just a lot of artists saying, look, my mental health is gone. Like I don't have this to give to you. Like I don't have it anymore. And I think I got to that point where I don't have nothing to give these people anymore. So I got to give something back to me. I got to be honest, and like that honesty with yourself is so hard to sit in those rooms. I think COVID is a dangerous thing. It is an awful thing that has implemented. And it's invasive. It's hurt so many people's lives, but solitary is so interesting during this time when you have to sit in that room and like, it isn't a choice to be by yourself. Like if you care about other human beings, you should be inside as much as you can and try to do the right thing. Of course, people don't, but that solitary was hard. Like it was loud. It was very loud being by myself and being like, what do I actually feel? And I couldn't locate it. I didn't know the source. Like I was like, like I had been so reactionary with my work. Like it had never been like just coming out of me. It just was like all these things are coming at me. So now I'm just gonna respond. But when like you're by yourself, like it's terrible.
You respond to, yeah.
You just kind of have to, I don't know, you got to deal with it if you choose to. And I think I was at a point where I was like, well, I'm about to be 23. Now I'm 23 years old. I'm like, well, guess you got to deal with life, you know? And I think a large portion of that courage kind of came from my mom, who we're both going through similar journeys at the same time. Where like, she is having her own metamorphosis and she's changing as an adult. And like, we're able to have these real conversations with each other about like the past and all of these various things and being honest with each other and having that mirror to kind of reflect back. Like community is so important. Just having people who say like, look, I don't feel like this is all the way you, like, I don't feel like this is all the way happening. Like, and just having that space to kind of like talk. So it's the solitary, it's the selective community. It was the return home for me. Like just going back to a place where it's like these 4 years of college, for lack of a better statement, ruined me. Felt like at some point they took so much from me. I got to go back to the one place where I felt like anything was possible. And that's kind of, you're a kid who's living in the hood and everybody's like, you got to get out, which is so annoying of a narrative, but like it is the narrative. That's the place where life feels abundant. You're going to college. And I think like that's a really important thing to me. And my mom was like essential to that, of just being like, look, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Like, yeah. And I didn't want to be 50 something years old, still looking back like, I wish I would have done this for me. I want to live every day for me. I don't think 50-year-olds are that old, but like everybody who's like an old head feels like an old head sometimes. So yeah, I don't know. Courage, I don't know. I think I just got tired.
Well, that you said you had to go back to that place where you feel like there's so many opportunities and it's like getting out of the hood, going to college. I mean, you're not in the hood now, but you aren't going back to college.
I have to remember that. I still live in that place. I mean, everyone still does.
Yeah. No, that's, yeah. Oh, I meant like, never mind.
You're good. I'm losing it. Let's go.
Well, okay, so you said two things, because you said a lot of art, like people turn to artists and like they expect them to be reactionary so that they can help the spectator process.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for any marginalized identity, but really for Black people, and like I feel comfortable in saying like we can keep going back to like Blackness, because in this space right now, in every space, but especially as a Black person, like there's always something to react to. There's never a moment, there's never a moment where you have peace. And especially now with social media, like everybody feels overwhelmed by it. But the difference is that whereas a Black kid, like before Facebook was a thing, you grew up hearing about Emmett Till and Rodney King and all this stuff from day one. Like those are things you just grow up knowing. To now, it's like you open up an app and then there's a new face, there's a new name. And like artists are always expected to react. And organizers too, which I think share a lot of parallels. Like they're both uniting people. They're both often voices for people. And you don't always choose to be that voice. But once you have that stage, like I know as an organizer, sometimes you feel obligated to people. Like you feel like, okay, well, this is not about me. This is about everyone else.
Yeah.
And so in a space where as a Black person, as a person who creates, as a person who cares about things and tries to be politically aware, like you are in a space where everything is telling you to constantly react, and to just say like, actually, you know what? I need to take a step back and I need to stop and I just need to like figure out what's going on in me.
Yeah.
It's huge. And even when you say like, I don't know what's going on in me. Like, that's why I took a year off, because I was just at a point where I was like, this is unbearable and I don't know what's happening, but I know it can't continue. And that's kind of what I felt too. But it's hard. It's hard to do. No one tells you. I mean, people kind of tell you, but then there's still the expectation that like, okay, you're going to take time, but then you're going to come back in a reasonable time too. And you're just going to keep doing the same thing. And it's like that. Yeah. And it's like, that's, what I was doing before was not sustainable. So why would I go back to that? Yeah. But thinking about those things, like the expectations that like even just taking time for yourself. Like I saw this post on Instagram of this woman who had like, she's a small business owner and artist, and she like had the worst possible birth. And thankfully her baby and her were okay, but she like had apparently gotten a bunch of messages from people like, where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? And then she's like, I'm a person too. And like, as facilitators, oftentimes you lose the aspect, you lose the ability to get to be a person too, when the whole, a lot of like what artists speak for is like, well, I'm seen as a person in the first place.
Yeah. That perfectly said. Like that's exactly what it feels like. I think the most recent example is we talked about it a little bit, like Chica, and just kind of seeing like what was going on with her. And I was like, wow, you people really don't care about folks' mental health. Like this does not matter to you all. Like that this is a person, but yet you relate to them because they are a person who is experiencing that thing. But I think once people spectate, you're not a person, you're a commodity. You're something that people can buy into. And especially like I praise independent artists who their lives are on the line. Like this is what pays the bills. Like, but I also feel it hurts when you like just see the ways that like you have to be sacrificial. I think it like when you said it's similar to activists, like it's sacrificial. Like they want people to be martyrs. And it's like, if everything that we're doing is for the benefit of promoting life, why do we not get to also live and to it never correlates. But I think the world needs to heal, and right now artists are the vessels for that healing. But who heals the vessel? Like no one attempts to. They think the work is healing, but it also is when you're talking about these things, when you're experiencing these things for the sake of like presenting art or whatever way, like it's also extremely hard. Like you're putting your pain for the world to see and hoping that like, somebody, I don't know what you hope. Yeah, who knows? Whatever it is, it could be totally different. Maybe you were hoping for affirmation, maybe you're hoping for love and whatever, but like there's a hope. And like, I don't think fans and people like that ever think about that hope that the artist creates for. It's just the hope they receive from it. Yeah.
And so much of that expectation too is like when you make it as an artist, like making it means, oh, I have money, oh, I have fame. But when you're thinking about like, you're right, because when you create, like it is from a space of hope, and like it's going back to that idea of like not all art has to be created from absence or lacking. Like I'm creating because I want to live, and this is like the life that I see for myself, and this is the way that I flourish and I flower, and I want to share that with you. And so like actually what would be most rewarding for an artist is just like to be able to, I think for me as an artist, what would be most rewarding is to just feel full. Like to not feel like I'm constantly pouring somewhere else or I'm constantly searching for something, but to feel full. And then to hopefully, like blossom more and grow more and do even more incredible things that I didn't think could come from me.
Yeah. 100%. 100% feel that.
Yeah. But it's such a strange thing. Because I also feel like sometimes there's like, and this, like everything, I also feel like so much of what I think about now goes back to internet culture, because like the internet is so pervasive in our lives.
Yeah.
But I think too about like, there's so much head ass spiritual stuff online.
Oh gosh. Oh.
And I'm just, I'm saying what it is. Like,
yeah.
So when you think about like all the things that are supposed to fill you, like even these communities that, you hope to garner by the art that you're making, because the point is to connect with people. Like I'm communicating in the way that I know best.
Sure.
And so then when that doesn't like work out to actually like being on level playing fields, and like you said, like instead being received as a commodity, like what does that do to me as an artist? So what does that say to me about the value of my work?
Value of work, that's an interesting concept in and of itself, but I don't even know. You lost me with hood spiritualist. I just went into this whole tangent in my head about just how annoying. I'm thinking about the is it the hood spiritualist? What did she call herself? Like I don't even know. Just all that mess. I'm sorry, my mind went elsewhere.
No, tell me. Come on, tangent. We love them.
No, I just think like I don't know, man. I have just so many tangents about internet culture, which is why I ultimately want to study media, because I'm like, this is not even from a standpoint of like, ooh, let's be invasive of like the artist. I'm like, can we talk about the culture that makes these things happen? Because like, I don't even get on, like my social media is off my phone currently, and I don't even think people notice, care, who cares? Yeah, I have to sometimes. And then I'm back on it looking up something for some reason. I'm only on TikTok right now because I love the food videos. Tangent, I can go on for days. But like,
please, yeah. I love food too.
Listen, that's what TikTok, that's where it's at its peak. Is when it's talking about food. But like, yeah, it's such a dangerous space. Like everything is performative. And yeah, I always like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I'm trying to gather a thought there, but it's just like, it's so easy to just be like, yeah, it's just performative. Like everything about it is just so, disgusting, but there's so many great things that can come from it, and you just kind of stay waiting for it to reach that point.
But you get all of the other stuff too.
Right. But sadly, the times when I think it hits the loudest of like this connecting tool is when tragedy happens. Mm-hmm. When people have to come together for something negative, then it becomes the best thing ever. And it's like, dang, if we could keep
anything exists for.
Right. So yeah, that's the thing that makes it different. Like I always think if I was like an artist a little further back where everyone was kind of creating in these little hubs and like, you know, they were doing it for communities, their shows were just for their community and all these things. Like, what would it be like? Would it be different? Would it be, I don't know. I just don't know if, particularly as a hip hop artist, if like hip hop is here to save the world. I don't think it was ever meant for the world. Like, I don't think it was for that. And like, now we're at this space where we're like,
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's pop culture. It's technically pop music if you're going off of popular music.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And still, even those distinctions are like so firm. Like hip hop, even though a lot of times what's defined as hip hop is like R&B or like something that has no genre, like SZA.
Yeah, it's like she's a hip hop artist. It's like, but yeah. I think like hip hop. Yeah, I can talk about that for days. I just think it's the ways that it has changed. And I don't want to even say I wanted to go back to kind of that Hotepi era of like women weren't really even involved. But like there is something about, there was a time when it was sacred and it feels less sacred. It feels less meditative, except for the few artists that I kind of still vibe with who are like in that realm. But like, yeah, it's for the masses now.
Yeah, and yeah.
This is getting bleak.
I know. Well, because I'm thinking like, and I think some things are beautiful. Like I think the ways that like so many artists, especially artists who are considered rappers, who might not really be rappers, they might just be like producing on real good like bass heavy beats, and they're Black, so they're called rappers. I mean, but that's real. I think like part of that is really beautiful. Like we're in an era where people don't have to be defined by genre. Like you don't have to be in a box. But then you're right. There's the other side of it where like that feeling that we have as artists where you're just pouring into everyone else and you're doing this for consumption is like highlighted and expanded and like blows up exponentially, specifically in terms of like hip hop and rap music. And like even hearing you say like social media is performative, like it is, we all know that. But as a performer to even feel like so like just off put by that idea, I think it's hard, especially like in the pandemic when lots of performers and lots of people who are like influencers, cultural icons, I don't really know how to define them, but everyone is turning to like Instagram lives and like performance on a performative platform. And like, what does that mean for art? And like, what does that mean for engagement and like actual community building? Like, are those things being lost in this era where really you have to turn to social media in order to find your base, because there's so much now and we're constantly seeing so much that it's hard to get a foothold somewhere. And like not even as far as just like if you're trying to sell something, but really if you just want to connect with other people, if you want to share this and you want to say, I want somebody to hear me and to understand.
I think a dope platform I think that's blossomed and this time is the Tiny Desk. Like I don't know if you like
I haven't Tiny Desk or listen recently, but I did watch them in the past.
Wow, these home concerts I think are so dope. Like I just think they're so dope because I think I see the artists so comfortable. Like they're in their own space, and even if it's not their physical homes, like I was watching like Spillage Villages, and they did one like in a church like setting, and it was so dope to just kind of see like the way they curated that space beyond like the immediate spectatorship of like what Tiny Desk is, which is a bunch of white people looking at artists in a box. Right. But like it was box. Literally in this little platform, which I'm like, that's so dope. And then you think about like who's around, and then you're like, okay, this is a little weird again. But it's so dope to kind of see artists curate those spaces in comfort. Like to really see like this is where they chose to be, like, and they're picking the spaces for the most part. Like Tiny Desk is just like, just let us know when you're gonna be there. They might have like one camera guy, I don't even know, but it's not the same type of experience, which like the intimacy of physically being there is gone, but like it wasn't like people had access anyways. I think it's interesting because the concert setting is kind of being erased-ish because people are still hosting stuff now. But like, I think it's interesting. Like the pressure to produce, I think, is still 110% there, especially because people need it right now. But I think the way that it's coming about, solitary is different. I think like it's different. Like there's no way for people to kind of physically expect artists to be there and able to touch them and breathe all their air and all these things. Like we cannot do that. So I think that's one cool thing. But like you're 100% right when it comes down to like social media. It's a performative place, and I think for me, I struggle with the title of a performer because I don't want to be a performer. I don't know how to explain it to people, but if I could just make music and never have to interact with someone, that would be my favorite thing. Because like the weirdest thing that's happened when you perform, like people come up to you and say all these things that are just super weird, and you're like, I'm glad that like made you feel ways, but like I don't want to hold this because this is a lot to hold about how this made you feel. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to not have to perform, but some people still actively choose that performance aspect. But like SZA was doing concerts from her physical bed, and I was like, she looks happy. Like it's here. Yeah, her blunt is right there. Like she can just reach it. She has a cat. She has crystals and chimes and all these things that make her feel full. And like that's that. And when she's done, she can hit cut and just go back about her life. But it doesn't mean things are perfect. But it's just like that aspect, I guess, is better-ish.
It is better. Like, and I didn't know that she had. I saw a video of her singing, but I don't think it was Good Days. Did she come out with another single in quarantine?
Sure. I mean, she had a song with Doja that just recently came out, but
it was some video though that was going around on Twitter of her like sitting in.
It's my shirt. Is it that one? I don't know. It's probably Good Days.
Yeah, it was probably Good Days. You're right. But that is actually kind of a dream, because when I think about like when I'm creating, like I definitely get the most done. I used to, when I first started like really painting, it was when I moved back home, and I would just sit on my bedroom floor and like just whip them out, like. So, yeah, it's like boom boom. But like, yeah, like how can you well, okay, I guess this is an answer we're all looking for, but do you think you've come close to getting to a space where you feel like, oh yeah, this feels easy because it feels good, like this feels easy because it feels nourishing?
I think I'm the closest I've ever been to that feeling. I'll say that as like the short answer. I think, yeah, time at home was first really fun, then it got really low, and then it got really fun again of like, I don't know, it's easy. That is ever what it feels like it is still to this day. Like I want it, that's the goal. I want it to feel easy and light, and for me, and I think being at home and kind of like, people still reach out and say, are you doing anything? Are you working on a project? Are you whatever? And I feel like I kind of have to give them some BS answer to like hold them over, but also not lose interest, because it's this weird world of having to keep people interested, which I'm not that interesting. So like, it's confusing, but like, it's just like, I'm really not. I am a homebody. Like I don't joke about this. Like the pandemic is really fun because no one can force me to go out. I'm like, no, it's a pandemic. What are you talking about? When really, I probably wouldn't went outside anyways. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's the closest I've ever been. I think that's the easiest answer. It's just surrounding myself with myself. And I'm like, I kind of like you. Like you're kind of cool. And like having these opportunities to be in conversation with myself and using my art as that conversation, where it's like that like when I talked about before responding, it feels like I'm choosing what I'm putting in this bubble of being at home, and like I'm responding how I want to respond. I'm waking up when I want to wake up and doing all these various things. And it's like, it is nourishing. To have autonomy is a nourishing feeling, like freedom in some weird capacity where you're still not free because you can't just go outside, but like freedom of control, freedom of losing it. Like something about it is still peaceful. Like no one gets to spectate unless I choose to allow them to have access. And like, that's a beautiful feeling. Autonomy, I guess, is the goal. Freedom, abundance, all those words. Like, it feels nice. I think I'm getting there, but like, I'm close. I feel very close.
Well, and I like, you know, life is a journey. So I guess that hopefully you'll always still be like, you'll feel comfortable in it and you'll still always be getting there. But like, even that thing that you said where you were like being home and like responding to myself, like I love that idea. Like just like I don't have to be reacting to everything else in the world, because if I do, I will never be full. Like I'll always be looking for someone else to satisfy. But if I'm responding to myself, then at least everything is okay here, where everything is also coming out. Like I can create and I can get and I can do all of this and I can be sustaining.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask, like, if you think this is the closest to feeling, I guess, most comfortable in your art, what did your start feel like? Because I know that you said like you had always had interest in music, and I know that you're a pianist. Like you do all these different.
Oh, please don't call me that or guitarist. I literally have those items. I got like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star down. I got
Imani, whatever. Stop lying.
I'm not kidding. Like Amber, I'm dead ass. Like, please don't ever ask me to perform that for you. Like, it will get treacherous real quick. Real quick.
But anyways, if you, when you said you first came to college and then like that's when you first entered your artistry, but again, since the moment I knew you, you were Imani the poet. What was that start? Like, what was that feeling? What was that trigger? Because I know it's something different now, but you were producing, even if it's not exactly the same.
I went to an event, a spoken word event on campus, my first week of school, and that was it. Like it was that was the start. Like I think I had always known there were like since I was a kid, I would write stories, and my mom would like give them to her friends at work. She tells me this. I don't know. I would do freestyles in the middle school like lunchroom because everyone does freestyles. They're cringy. They're not really good, but like that's where like a cipher is a feedback loop. Everyone is just vibing off of everyone's energy and all these things. Like that was the first times like I'm just improvising. But I think the start in college was just going to that event. And it was Elizabeth Acevedo as like one of the main people. And she's one of the dopest poets I've ever seen spoken word wise, because she infuses rap so fluently. And like, I had never seen, one, I didn't know what spoken word was. And then two, I didn't ever think that it was going, like poetry could be that. So the start was this place of like awe, and then this place of immediate confusion when I went to a classroom. It was like, oh, this is not what's going down in this space, but cool. This is not what's going down. No, but I think like, I don't know, I'm a middle child. So like middle child syndrome is like, I also like context is like both of my siblings are artists. And I think they were known as artists from a young age of like, they praise danced in church and things like that. And I'm not a dancer by any means. So I'd be kind of just like the black sheep just chilling on the side. And everyone's like, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't, okay. It's just like, that's what it always felt like. Then pair that with being queer. And it's like, okay, like just all this confusion about like what I did. And I just felt like that was the one place I could stake claim and be like, all right, so I'm going to college. I can be known for a lot of things. I could be blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, let's do this thing. And I was like, I'm gonna just go for it and see what it's like. And I think at first it was really fun. It was fun seeing people listen to you. And just like for however long a poem is, the room is quiet and everyone kind of just has to hear you. And like we were talking about, that's where it starts, is that place of like, I want to be heard. And I felt like I had some things that I wanted to get off my chest. And every time I approach writing, even to this day, it is very much almost initially cathartic of like, all right, so I had that day today. Let's get to the pen. Like, let's see what's about to happen. Like, and it's still beautiful. It's like, the closest thing I can think I can explain it to is like Christian folks talking about the Holy Ghost. Like that's what it feels like when you are freestyling and something happens where it all just makes sense and it clicks. And like, it's beautiful. And I think the first time it happened to me, I was like, whoa, I never considered myself a very spiritual person at the moment. I never considered myself an orator or any person that like should be listened to. And I said, yo, this is actually this really dope force that like, if I can feel this within myself and I don't consider myself spiritual of any sense of the word, like, I think that this can make other people feel something too. And then seeing how people responded to it, I was like, all right, cool. But like, you never want to be a rapper. Like I don't think I didn't want to be a rapper, because when you say you're a rapper, people initially just laugh at you. Like, of course you are. Like every dude on SoundCloud, of course you're a rapper.
Why is that always the response to?
It's comical. It's just like, yeah, of course. And
people
like,
are such haters.
They're haters. They're truly haters.
Yes.
Yeah, like I would hate, like, no, I don't want to go into a room and say, yeah, I rap. And people are like, oh, okay, here we go.
Really shut down.
Yeah, so it was interesting to see people respond to it, but also realize the privilege of like, I don't know, people gravitating towards how I rap because it is considered more poetic, which like, it feels, you hear the words and the choices, like there is still poetics and other shit too, yeah. But like, yeah, I felt like I was in this middle ground where I was like, I can get white people to listen to me, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then black people are fucking with the vibes. So like, what's up? And it was this cool moment of just like, okay, it was fun. This is where I come alive. Like I'm a homebody, but when I'm like just spitting, I'm like, oh shit, you kind of did something right there.
You do be doing stuff. But okay, so you said you don't like you don't like performing, but you're right. Like it is very moving. And I remember, I can't even remember the whole line, but I remember I was watching you perform. I think it was our first year, like in the spring or something. And you had a line about a name flying out of your mouth like a bird to be free. Do you remember what I'm talking about? It was in the African American Heritage Festival. You were reading.
Oh, shit.
It was, I think it was the first year.
Yeah, it probably was. I try to forget that moment. I think I was still a hotep then. So like I'm trying to like I still was like, yeah, I love J. Cole. And like that's my favorite.
You don't love J. Cole?
Okay, I do, but like he said he doesn't read. We'll get about that later. But like,
listen, girl, you know I hate him anyways. So I am ecstatic to hear that you don't like J. Cole any longer.
Right. Do you see, like I've changed, I've evolved, but like I used to be like, oh my God, J. Cole can do no wrong. And then he's like, yeah,
yes,
don't read.
You were such a stan.
It was awful. Like I was a hotep. You see how I've changed? Like
but you didn't even think he was a hotep.
Well, like now I can say I was a hotep. Then I was too much of a hotep to admit it. Are you kidding? Like that's the premier quality of a hotep. It's not admitting you're a hotep.
That's true.
Yeah, but no, I've changed. I've been exposed. Thankful for people like you who argue with me. And of course I didn't stop arguing. Come on now. Like of course
I love.
Exactly. And I love conversation. I like people who engage. I like conflict. I hate saying that, but I do. Like I'm very much like a confrontational person, but not in a bad way. Not a bad way. It's just like I think that people got to be honest and they got to be real. And I love J. Cole, and I couldn't let it go. But I was like, now I'm like, he's a little bit of a hotep.
It's bad. You know, we're all mixed.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Like he represents the culture somewhat. Like niggas are hoteps these days. So like.
Right.
That's their thing.
That's what he speaks to, yes.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I was a hotep then, so I don't remember that performance. I was still saying shit that I'm like, please, no one ever hear that. Ever.
Well, I will tell you that even though I was not down with hotepery, that was not hotep to me. That was like, I remember hearing that line and my eyes are welling up a little. I think after the performance, like I ran up to you because I was just like, Imani, that was so beautiful. And like, so I think, well, because you say very beautiful things and you say very potent things and like you get at feelings like very truly. And so like to me, even though I know your art is not, just for consumption, I hope that one day there will be spaces that feel comfortable for you to share that with people and be in community. Because I think there are also spaces where people will be able to honor it and they won't be looking at you as another pie that they can take a piece of to feel free. Yeah. Which is like the thing as artists, you have to create those spaces a lot of times for yourselves, because otherwise like people will just determine what it is that you are allowed to give, what you have to give, and they're
For
not going to
sure.
you.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at now. Is like I'm now getting comfortable with me. So now when I do put out stuff, hopefully in the very near future,
Yes.
it will be
She just fired woman. I'm staying here so that she actually drops it. But I heard it, and the demo with no mic is crazy.
trash audio. It was praised again.
It's still so good. How is it still so good?
I don't even know. I'm sure there's a toilet flush in the background. Like something was going down. Like it was crusty audio. Like, but yeah, that's the goal. Now I think I'm coming at it differently, and I think I'm giving it time. I'm letting it rest, and then I'm just coming back at it and just letting it happen. And I'm keeping people around me who are just holding me accountable to myself. And like, that's what I need. I don't need people who hold me accountable to no other shit that I've been held accountable to. Just hold me accountable to myself and my journey and my love and my all these things that I want to be now. But back then I was overcompensating, talking shit for fun. Like, I don't know. But I had lines that I was like, this is where you can be. And that's, yeah. But I don't ever want to hear those quotes ever again. Ever.
Never mention it again. But
ever.
They don't know.
No.
Those are so beautiful.
Whoever has the videos has to delete them. Because they're going to come back to bite me in the ass.
Keep them for yourself. Cherish them.
No.
Okay, so that is our time. Thank you so much, Imani. I really, really love you. Y'all, I'm gonna drop all her stuff in the link. Do you have a website? Do you have a SoundCloud? I know you had rap tracks before this year. Did you ever put them online? Oh, okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
This is literally what my mom wants to beat me up about. She's like, if you do not put shit somewhere, and I'm like, oh, something about archiving it makes it permanent, and I don't like permanent, so like it scares me. But I'm gonna do it. I'm good. There's a website coming soon. I'm gonna say before 2022 to get me to do it. But no, I hope to drop new tracks summer.
Yes.
Summer.
It will happen this summer. I have faith.
You the only one. You're the only one.
Okay, would you like to say anything to our listeners before we head out?
Don't follow. No, I'm kidding. Let's just walk in love and abundance, man. We're not absence. That's it. Yes. Let's be more than our absences.
Yes, let's be full.
Yeah, let's be full. That's the woo.
Yes, I'm taking that too. I need that. But thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys tune in next month, and please check out my friend Imani. She's so wonderfully talented. I think it will be a blessing to all of you to hear. Okay, have a great day. This was Figuring Out with Amber GM and Imani. Bye.
Bye.